this is live, Mike. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Live. We are live from San Diego. That's right. Our New York correspondent says that we're live coming from San Diego on this second live Energy Facts Chats. And we wanted to say thank you to everyone out there tuning in. If you tuned in yesterday, we had some great conversations. We actually kind of went over our time. Look, I tried to do 30 minutes of good energy conversations where we kind of discuss, energy expectations on what's kind of going on out there in the marketplace. And where does that meet energy realities? What's the reality of how does that impact, the environment? The reality of how does that impact the consumer? How does that impact? What's the realities behind these energy expectations? So I want to thank y'all for tuning in. Obviously, I'm pumped about this because we are actually live on our Energy Facts Chats YouTube channel. And that channel actually has a bunch of material from Mike that you. Well, and us. How about that? And us. But that material was kind of good stuff because that's what kind of had us, I guess, get connected and get to know each other. So if you're out there tuning in, please also check out the Energy Facts Chats YouTube channel. We have more subscribers there than my Energy Crew channel, which has been going on for at least 2 years longer. That's no big deal, which is cool. Just details. We're not paying attention to details. All right, let's see who we got tuning in. We have Scott Cassow. Thanks for hosting. Casso, Casso. I think I might have pronounced it wrong. I'm bad at names, but thanks for tuning in, Scott. I'm surprised Cody Godsell isn't the first one tuning in like he did yesterday. So again, if you're tuning in wherever you're tuning in from, say hello. We love kind of the feedback that we're having. We have an interesting conversation that we kind of teed up today. So yesterday we kind of went over kind of what the background of Californians for Energy and Science is and why this group is being formed to provide realistic studies on the environmental and economic impact of energy policy.
Right.
And it was a great conversation. It was kind of got into a lot. And from that, obviously, you can check that out. We're going to be posting this on our YouTube video, but from that, kind of how we approach these conversations, it's because they're Energy Facts Chats and there's so much to cover. It's a lot on our radar.
There's a lot going on.
We're gonna kind of have a pre-planned conversation we talked about yesterday. Like, hey, look, I'm gonna bring this up tomorrow. I want you to get over this, but then we're gonna do a tour to headlines. We're gonna hit the headlines on what's going on in the realm that we are seeing today and what that means for you out there and the consumers that are not watching this but should be watching this. So we have Thomas Bell, Tom Bell, Chicago. Someone from Chicago, Chi-Town. I love it, Chi-Town. Well, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate that. And it is a cloudy morning here in beautiful San Diego. And yesterday was my first full 24 hours in San Diego, my wife and I, and we are easily fall in love with this state, with the people here. I mean, California crew, if you like that, drop a as Laura says, all right in the comments. So obviously, thank you for tuning in. And I think kind of one of the things that we're going to get kicked off this morning is, so we're driving yesterday from North.
La Jolla?
No.
Oh, when we were in
Encinitas, driving back, and I'm kind of sitting there, and my phone gets an alert, and it was kind of this. It was ERCOT. It was ERCOT kind of giving a energy conservation alert again, and this is kind of, I think, probably the 7th or 8th one we've gotten the last 2 weeks. Texas is kind of struggling with its own grid issues or power issues, and it said due to high demand, low wind, and low solar, we're asking people to conserve energy, their energy to, I guess, avoid a brownout or blackout or kind of maybe putting the grid into too much turmoil. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. What's your hot take from that alert and all that?
Well, I'm no ERCOT specialist, but we have similar issues in the California Independent System Operated Grid, CAISO, out here, where you have photovoltaics flooding the market during the day. Certain spring days, we have to curtail and shed load out to other states. You have negative pricing during the day, but then you have high demand depending on the weather, depending on how warm it is, depending on what time of the year it is. Schools are getting back in session, so you've got facilities that are drawing more energy off the grid. And that happens in California as well. And I think what the ERCOT grid is dealing with is the intermittency of certain sources of power generation. And then similar to these warnings that you received, we received in California a text message late September 2022 that said, hey, everybody conserve power so we can avoid blackouts. And ultimately, it's not an efficient or effective way to manage the grid for
Right.
the people of your state. People get fatigued of these warnings. And ultimately, it's the boy who cried wolf. It's, you know what? I get this warning every day. I'm sitting in here in an 85-degree home, and I don't want it. I'm
Yeah.
done with that, and I'm going to keep it on. And ultimately, that's what's going to happen.
Well, look at, I mean, it's just kind of like whenever like a hurricane or an ice or whatever, all that stuff starts coming through Houston, you know, at first it's like a big deal. You know, people start evacuating, they start planning properly. And then next thing you know, it doesn't hit as hard as they expected, or it's not the doom and gloom. So the next issue, the warning they issue and all stuff, fewer people start evacuating, fewer people start taking it serious. So I can see after all these conservation, hey, do this, conserve power. You're right. I think it kind of gets to a point, just like whether it's anything, whether it's, I'm trying to bring this, but whether it's, you know, the pandemic that hit, certain precautions, people just get fatigued of these constant warnings. And this is kind of something maybe I'm growing up and kind of paying attention to more. This is something I'm seeing more lately and recently in the past several years than I did previously growing up.
Right.
So,
and then you also see a couple headlines sprinkled in. I've seen it for ERCOT. I've seen it, of course, for CAISO, where they say, well, lithium battery storage is working to stabilize the grid as we have high demand days. And then you look into the electricity maps or the charts you look at and you see in California, well, we've got 5 gigawatts of installed lithium batteries.
And what does that mean? What does that mean for the everyday consumer?
Less than, 10% of the generation source is coming from batteries. And by the way, they discharge over 2 hours and they go away and they recharge again. Typically on natural gas, if you're talking nighttime recharging, but cloudy days in California, you're recharging those batteries on natural gas. And so I think there's a false hope being offered with battery storage in the traditional lithium ion sense. And in Texas, I think you have about 3 gigawatts installed. And folks say, oh, well, this is going to be great. They're going to come online and match the high demand times. And you look at it and you say, look, this is a source that's only generating power for 2 hours. And it too is dependent on variable, unpredictable wind and solar to charge up. So I think there's a lot of false narratives being floated around about what solutions are long-term sustainable solutions for grid stability.
But look at look at those, the smoke, the promises and all that stuff that occurred several years ago. Look how it's playing out to today.
Right.
We're getting conservation notices, we're getting brownout, we're getting this, we're getting that. And I'm actually just looking at the electricity map today. I don't know if we can kind of get this, we can kind of zoom in. Hey, give a little faith in some technology. So pretty much it's showing that natural gas, you can probably read this a little bit better. You went to school for this. It's dominating the market.
30 gigawatt.
Out of how many?
I mean, it doesn't say the total here, but if you add it up, roughly 45 or 50.
Like 80% of
the market. Yeah. If you kind of look at the bars.
Yeah. Always look at the bars. You always got to look at the bars in the electricity map. Always. Yeah. So okay, so anyway, I just thought that was kind of interesting way to kick things off, because this is something that's kind of it's becoming kind of more of a nuisance in a lot of homes. I mean, to constantly be worried about brown. I mean, just get some. It's hot in Houston. It's hot in Texas.
It's an inefficient way to manage your traditional baseload sources like natural gas power plants, because what happens when you have wind in ERCOT during the day, or you have solar out here in California during the day, you're shutting down facilities that are traditionally, more base load type facilities, and it's an inefficient way to run those resources. So now when you need the natural gas at night, when these variable sources go offline, now you've got to ramp up a natural gas plant and you've got to get it up quickly, and it's an inefficient use. You're not as efficient in your natural gas usage, and it's more expensive to run the natural gas plant that way. So prices go up on that end as well. So it's all of these nuances of the quote unquote transition are important wrinkles to understand for the consumer and the ratepayer to understand. It's not cheaper to run the grid this way. If it were, all of our utility rates would be coming down.
Okay.
They wouldn't be going
Okay.
up, and we wouldn't be asked. We wouldn't be asked to manage a grid. Isn't that kind of bizarre?
Yeah.
Like we're being
Yeah.
messaged, hey, can you help me out? I'm supposed to be running this grid for you.
Yeah.
I'm the utility that gets a fixed rate of return, 8 to 15%. I'm never, as a utility, I'm never talking about the benefit of the people. Let's lower the rates. I never have to talk that way because I can just raise rates. I can bury infrastructure. I can bring on clean power. I can mismanage my grid. And by the way, the entire time I can raise your rates and you have no say, but I will ask you, JP, and your wife in your household to power down when I need you to, and I won't bring the cost down.
But not only that, I mean, looking at that, you look at this home. Let's look at this home right now. I mean, you have, 3 kids, you have laundry to do, you have stuff to cook, you have bedtime routines that you got to get done. I mean, you disrupt that. I mean, we were sitting there last night, having a wonderful dinner. It was one of those things we kind of took a step back and not sarcastic. We're like, we really appreciate the natural gas because we're able to cool off because we're able to cook, we're able to do the laundry, we're able to do wash the dishes, like all this stuff that we're able to do. And I put my shades on because we got the sun coming in, which I'm loving it. I'm loving it. But I mean, if you think about that, all these families out here with children in school and all that stuff. I mean, and you're asking me to kind of float the grid that you're getting
and
cash.
You know what happened? Just a little side story. I woke up this morning. I was the first one up on the couch, reading my Union Tribune on my phone.
I feel like you're calling me out.
I looked over at the barbecue, and I was like, I left the barbecue on all night long. I did.
I don't know if I admit that in the Energy Facts. Okay.
So I go out there. I'm like, oh man, I had 2 burners on, kind of medium. I'm like, well, the temperature gauge says it's about 550 degrees.
Are you kidding me?
All night long. So yeah, rookie mistake.
I have no idea why you'd bring that up live, but okay, I respect that.
Side story. Before we get to the headlines, I thought that might be.
Speaking of the headlines, we're just getting this in. Let's go to the headlines. What's hitting the wall? What is this?
This is the Wall Street
What
Journal.
is hitting?
Let's start with this Wall Street
Journal. So what we're going to do, we're going to start off with the Wall Street Journal. For those that don't get the Wall Street Journal, that's fine. Welcome to my club. But for those that are more in the know, welcome to Mike's club that do get the Wall Street Journal. So, Mike, what's going on in the Wall Street Journal? Why don't you read the headlines, maybe flash it on camera and all that fun stuff?
Well, this one on the front page in the bottom corner says, Middle East monarchies become world's ATM. And one of the themes that we hear a lot in California is big oil.
Yep.
Big oil. We have to phase out oil production in the state for the sake of the environment. Then when the prices go up at the pump, when you see it here, $5.50, $5.70 a gallon,
bro, $5.91, $5.99,
$6.09.
Yeah, I'm seeing $5.99
at diesel one next.
Okay.
But yeah, you're seeing $5.99.
Yeah, at the bargain places that you go to. Yeah,
right. And so we need to shut down local oil production in the name of the environment. Yet demand is not being shed, right? We still have the same demand.
You still have the same calories.
Now when we see this, Middle East monarchies become the world's ATM. And basically what this article is talking about is the Saudi Arabia, UAE, other oil and gas operators. We know how they make their money.
Big oil.
Big oil, right? These companies are making record profits while simultaneously cutting supply. They're announcing they're extending their 1.3
to the end of the year
barrel a day cut through the end of the year. They're recognizing that West Texas shale is at a peak level. We're not going to see a massive increase in production coming out of West Texas.
And is that obviously there's a lot of players in that factor, but is that because the industry is kind of unattractive to invest in? There hasn't been a lot of investment. There's a lot of.
If I'm running a West Texas operation, I say, shoot, Saudis are giving me cover. They're cutting production. I can maintain production. Now prices are up over $90 a barrel again.
Okay.
Why are U.S. producers incentivized to produce more? That would just bring more supply on and lower the price. So now I think they're in a nice little spot where for years the shale game was this carousel of trying to return money to investors, skim some profits, pay down debt. And now they're saying, hey, if I can just maintain production, let's let OPEC cut their production and we maintain and make more money.
Okay.
I think that's
Okay.
what's happening.
Okay.
But now in a place like California, and tying it into yesterday's conversation about why we start Californians for Energy and Science, it's this kind of a narrative that big oil in California is gouging the consumer at the retail gas station, which is absurd when you see articles like this. The Middle East is printing money. They're bringing it. They own Live Golf, and now they're a part of the PGA Tour.
And who's the football player they got? And I use football
they got
because
Ronaldo.
Yeah,
they got Neymar. They're now talking about going into I think tennis and other sport, MMA. China's financing projects with these countries. Russia is in cahoots with OPEC, and they're financing.
Yeah, BRICS.
They're
The whole
financing
India.
their war in Ukraine based off rising oil production. Meanwhile, in a place like California, the fourth largest economy in the world, we're being misled and misdirected to believe that somehow the local producer that cannot get permits is also price gouging me and my family at the pump.
Okay, so real quick, I want to dive.
That's a lot. That's a
no,
lot.
that is a lot, but I want to dive into that. But real quick, I want to put a pin in that, and I want to go to the price of gas.
Yeah.
So for people that don't understand why gas is so expensive in California versus any of the 49 other states, it's because of the tax. And can you kind of real quick, real brief get in that, because I want to talk about that. I want to go back to this real quick. So for those that are looking, they're like, oh, big oil is the cause of this in California. Big oil is the cause of this. Big oil is the cause of this. What is the realities behind the price of gasoline in California?
Well, you look at California, it's often called an energy island. There's no crude pipeline coming from West Texas to the California refineries.
Okay.
So we don't get oil from anywhere else other than produced in the state or imported via tanker. We have a little bit of rail coming down from the Bakken and Canada. It's very insignificant. So you've got that supply dynamic. If you're not getting it from California, you're bringing it in on a boat.
Yep.
And then there's no permits. We talked about that yesterday. 7 permits have been issued in the whole state of California.
And last year there was 1,400.
There's typically 1,500.
Okay, gotcha.
And then you have on top of that cap and trade taxes, low carbon fuel standard taxes, several other taxes.
A lot of taxes.
That amount to effectively $1.20 to $1.30 on every gallon that we purchase. So we're getting to a point, in my opinion, where the state at $1.20 a gallon might be making more money per gallon than the refineries.
But yes, the blame is being thrown up to the refineries. Okay.
Which are bringing in Brent priced crude, because we're importing on the international market.
Right.
So as the Middle East monarchies become the world's ATM, as diesel prices soar after Russia and Saudi cuts, this talks about Saudi oil is perfect for making diesel. That you get a lot of diesel yield, and Saudi oil comes into California at 50 to 70 million barrels a year. Saudi oil, $6 diesel. So now, as we're importing all of these products, we're subject to their price cuts, their economic.
They're driving the boat. They're driving the boat.
Literally,
they're driving the boat on everyone's economy.
Coming in. They're driving the tankers. We are not. Nobody in California controls that. Sacramento doesn't control that. The operators don't control that. So it's taxes and supply and demand.
And the thing is, I kind of want to pull back. I mean, if I look at this, from let's say and again, when it I don't want to use uneducated. How about someone that doesn't understand energy? How about this?
Yeah,
if I don't understand energy, and I'm seeing these headlines, I'm hearing this, I'm like, good. It's time to step away from that. It's time to get away from that. Get off oil. We need to do X, Y, and Z. But again, if you're an avid fan of Energy Facts chats, like everyone out there is, you'd understand that the human body, the world needs a certain amount of calories, of energy calories, to function the way we do.
Yes.
We need a certain amount of calories. So regardless how you stand or what you believe or what you want, the certain levels of comforts that we have, the quality of life that we have is 2,000 calories of energy a day, right? We need that. So it doesn't matter if we're going against big oil, or this or that, like, oh, let's phase out this, let's phase out that, let's go more into these projects. At the end of the day, we still need that energy, and we're gonna consume it. It's just a matter of where we get it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Are we going to the local farm, or are we just gonna go to? Yeah.
It's coming. Yeah, you're going to buy it. And that's the sad situation.
So your food is going to say made in San Diego, made in Kern County, or made in China.
And I love seeing the buy local labels at the taco shops we go to, on the salsa and everything. It's like that, to me, speaks to this is a local job, several local jobs. This is local tax revenue. This is businesses that sponsor Little League. Saudi Arabia is not coming to San Diego to sponsor your Little League team.
Yeah.
Kern County, when you go into service companies and operators, you see all the, team photos that they're sponsoring. Saudi Arabia is not coming in here. The Middle East monarchies are not the ATM for us. They're doing that for their benefit. And I think that's what, as tying it to your question about the layperson that doesn't follow energy, or that just sees these articles. And maybe it's like me, when I read the Wall Street Journal, I'm looking for the energy related articles.
Yeah.
Maybe someone in another industry is looking for inflation articles, for what the Fed's doing, for other things. And these just float by. And then when they go to the pump, man, why is this happening? So you can't necessarily fault the common person for not.
No. I don't.
But I do place blame on both sides of the aisle politically for not talking about this in an open and honest way. And I think there's several, whether it's the Middle East, or there was another article, just to jump to another headline on this today, from I think it's The Economist. The Economist says a higher global oil price will help Russia pay for its war.
Okay.
So now how does that relate? The policymakers that are telling us, hey, we need to give billions of dollars to Ukraine because we need to help them fight Russia. Well, now Russia and OPEC are cutting their production. The prices are going up. These sanctions are all smoke and mirrors. And you've got Russia saying, hey, I'm just going to ride out my profits. I'm going to use my profits to continue to finance this war. Meanwhile, the American people are being asked to give their tax dollars to Ukraine to fight this war.
Yeah.
How effective would the tool be if we said, hey, let's flood the market with oil, our own oil. Let's create policies that help our people, help bring down the price of crude oil. Let's make sure we're responsibly producing in West Texas and California and the Bakken.
There's a fun fact with how many jobs does one drilling rig support? And it's not just jobs on the field, right? I love seeing the supply chain. It's like, not just, the foremen, just the pumpers, the HR people, these people that invest, the people, the amount of jobs that are created. I wish someone had that statistic out there that can chime in, but the amount of jobs, local jobs, and the impact that it has to local families is tremendous. And also, not just to take away, look, at the end of the day, the environmental regulations that how we produce oil in the United States is 10 times better than more environmentally responsible than elsewhere.
Hundreds of times, thousands of times better. And I think that would be a great infographic for you at your kids' crew to show the supply chain and the jobs of the drilling rigs and what that we've looked at it and said, look, 1,500 permits. That's probably $1 to $3 billion out of the California economy this year.
They just given that it's going elsewhere.
It's just gone. It's just evaporated into thin air. It's gone because those rigs are gone. You have less than 10 rigs operating in the state of California. Most of them are on geothermal projects.
Okay.
So you have maybe one or two drilling rigs in oil and gas fields. One of those rigs is in Aliso Canyon drilling for gas storage wells. So not even producing.
Okay.
Drilling new wells to inject West Texas gas. We do get West Texas, but to put gas in the ground for storage for later times. But it's a $1 to $3 billion hit that California's economy has taken with the lack of permitting, just on the rig side of the equation, the supply chain, the service companies, all of that. It's massive. It's massive.
So, for someone that, we're coming up on 24 minutes here, and obviously like to turn it over to, people out there maybe tuning in, or also probably we're going to get on a couple tangents too, as we kind of close out. I want to kind of ask you, like, what are some things, we have, the BRICS nations kind of moving the needle when it comes to, the price of oil, kind of all that stuff. You have the people in the over here in the local community kind of blaming big oil, which that's just kind of an easy villain to blame when yeah. So let me ask you a question. I mean, obviously, energy fact chats, we talk about energy expectations, energy realities. I want to ask you, what do you seeing these articles and stuff? Let's talk about kind of number one. What's and there's a lot here. I want to talk about kind of what's kind of on your radar as your biggest concerns.
Yeah.
What are you most wishful for?
Right.
And what are you most hopeful for?
Right.
I mean, I know wishful and hope is the kind of same thing, but what is on your radar? I guess that kind of concerns you. See something in the newspaper that kind of piques your interest. What are these overall topics?
I'll bring up another to answer that question.
Okay.
Because it's another news article that I think really addresses my biggest concern. And today, Biden to bar drilling on millions of acres in Alaska in the National Wildlife Refuge up there. But meanwhile, Russia's answer to the U.S. shale boom is Arctic development. So my biggest concern is that take that case where you've got Alaska and the Arctic Circle up there, where Russia is saying, there's a lot of resource up here, baby. I'm going to go in there. I don't care about preserving the Arctic. I don't care about pristine ecosystems. I'm going to drill that up and I'm going to sell that oil, that LNG to China. And I don't care.
Yeah.
You can't stop me, United States. Meanwhile, we say to Alaska, yeah, we're going to leave it in the ground. Just, several hundred or thousand miles away from that. They're in the Arctic Circle too. So we're preserving a tiny little corner, but then the rest of that Arctic Circle is just going to be pillaged by Russia. They're going to do whatever they want. And that's the same thing in California. We're saying, hey, we're going to preserve the west side of the San Joaquin Valley, which is very remote, which is not a very biodiverse ecosystem. There are sensitive species, flora, fauna that we protect because we have laws when we develop. But same thing, we're going to shut it down here and we're going to allow Saudi Arabia to produce it. We're going to allow Iraq to produce it. They can flare whatever they want. They can behead you if you say something critical about their regime. They have terrible human rights.
And here's the deal. And I'm gonna not just behead you when it comes. Oh, you're talking about actual literal.
Yes.
But how about this? But not just that. But let's talk about cutting supply. Let's say the Western world and that kind of getting a little scuffle.
Right.
They can slow off imports, and not just the hydrocarbons, but I mean that could be rare earth minerals that we outsource as well.
Right.
I mean, you're already seeing that with some with China kind of reducing their imports with the rare earth minerals.
Yeah, and how do these if we're not making the rare earths here, how do they get here on a boat?
Exactly.
And bunker fuel and diesel.
And when you're talking about Russia and the Arctic Circle and all that stuff, at the when it comes down to it, what's going to be driving economies, what's going to be driving power in the global market space is going to be energy.
Right.
That, and I understand. Look, I hate how energy took a political landscape, but that's what's going to be driving.
Totally political.
That's going to be driving economies. That's going to be driving whether it's war, whether it's this, whether it's that, all that, everything. That's your security right there. And you can't really kind of give it up on this, this hopes and dreams. Like, well, we should. At the end of the day, I mean, it is a reality that we have to deal with.
Absolutely, and it's always been this way. You look back. I was at the West Kern Oil Museum last week, and they have a wooden pumping unit. When we were in World War II, California ramped up its oil production 42% in 4 years to meet the needs of the U.S. and the Allied forces, and they couldn't use the steel that they were using because they needed it for the tanks and the airplanes and all the war machines. So they repurposed everything, used counterweights made out of cement and wood pumping units. And if they drilled and hit an oil well, they could get the steel from the War Department.
Only if they could prove it.
And if they drilled a gas well, they plugged it because we didn't need gas. Yeah. But that's the kind of thing that's going to happen. We are seeing wars are won and lost based on your energy sources and your ability to reap profits and capture that spread. Exactly what these articles are talking. Middle East is getting so wealthy off this energy transition. Russia is financing its war off its oil. We're financing our support of Ukraine on the backs of our people, not on our energy profits, which we could be doing. And to tie it all together, the biggest fear is we're actually hurting the environment on a global, holistic
Yeah,
scale.
there's no pee in peas, no pee zone in the pool or something like that. Yeah, I mean it's
It's one world, one environment, but we're also pristine ecosystems in the Arctic are being left to Russia's stewardship.
Yeah.
The oil fields are being left to Saudi and Iraq stewardship instead of our stewardship. It's about who do you want to manage the resources, not pitting the common person against a big oil narrative, because ultimately right now OPEC and Russia control the oil and gas markets in the world. Maybe not gas as much because we have so much natural gas in the United States, but the oil market is absolutely controlled by OPEC.
Yeah.
And that needs to be the conversation that we're having, not driving the conversation with this political component of we need to shut down the oil and gas industry in the whole United States. That's wrong.
So, okay, so what are you hopeful about? Like what are you optimistic about in this landscape of the energy and environment we're in right now?
I'm hopeful that more articles like this are continued to be published and people start putting that puzzle together.
Start kind of connecting the dots.
Why does Saudi Arabia have so much money they can buy every athlete, every star athlete? They can just buy what they want. Eventually people are going to start connecting.
And here I am getting a text message. I got to kind of conserve the energy.
I got to conserve my energy. We don't have enough. You can't afford your groceries because the price of diesel is $6 a gallon. You can't afford to buy Christmas gifts because the imports coming to Texas are coming through California.
So you're hopeful for kind of an energy boomerang, more of a dialogue on energy realities, kind of like, hey, look, where are we sourcing this? What's the true impact of this? I mean, can we live off of 1,000 calories? No, we need 2,000. Okay, well, let's have a healthy conversation when it comes to domestic oil production.
Yeah, and maybe when it comes to energy, maybe that window opens up after the 2024 election.
Okay,
maybe after the Democrats and the Republicans fight this out and they fight the political corners of energy. Maybe after the dust is cleared in 2024, 2025, but either side in power can come and say, "Hey, we kind of need this.
Yeah.
Hey, we it's better for the environment to produce it locally. Let's we've reined in this big oil." However they start spinning it back.
I feel like big oil is always going to be it's always going to be there lurking in the shadows.
Absolutely. It always will.
Yeah, it's like a Disney character. It's like a Disney villain of like the 1950s, I feel like.
Right. But these policies what I'm hopeful for too is that independence will fill this space, that independent operators that haven't had this legacy of hurting the environment will come into their own,
right?
And they will fill the need with new technologies, not necessarily new energy sources, but new technologies that make producing what we need cleaner, safer, more efficient, more reliable, all of those things.
So I love that. And obviously, again, for those out there kind of curious on what Mike's doing out here and kind of who would like to learn more and obviously emulate that, you can kind of check out Californians for Energy and Science, which is, what's the website again?
EnergyandScience.com.
And we came up with a tagline yesterday for this.
You came up with it.
No, come on now. Californians for Energy and Science, because California's energy should be based on science. You like that? You dig that?
Absolutely.
Let's take it to the boards real quick. All right, we have StreamYard saying live viewer comments show up on StreamYard. Thanks, StreamYard. All right, we have Jordan Chrisman, off topic. What's going on, Jordan? Off topic, but not too far off topic. Our HOA in Houston just issued a notice to fine households upward to $10,000 if caught watering the lawn outside of scheduled days. Dude, this isn't that off topic. I can see this kind of going to charging your EVs. Inefficient policies lead to the public not only being asked to help fix the problem created by said politicians, but being threatened with fines if they don't comply. Can you spell totalitarian? I can't because I can't even say it, but that's okay. I'm live. I get nervous. Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of interesting because, I mean, you look at, even out here, you see these, obviously people are pushing for EVs. And we had a conversation. I think EVs are pretty legit. I think they're cool as hell. But then again, if I'm in an opportunity where I can't afford it and charge it, that's fine. But it's not applicable to a lot of people. You know what I mean? I can't. But anyway, but we talked about that. And there's a lot of mandates coming out. Like, you can't charge it at your house. You can't charge it here. You have to charge it during the daytime hours at work or at this and all that stuff. So it's really not that far off topic, Jordan, because you are seeing kind of, hey, you need to buy this car, but you can't charge it when you want to charge it.
Sure.
You have to. We're kind of suggesting you charge it on these off during this time only at this location, not at your own home. So
Yeah. Well, and to his, I'm not familiar with the water situation in Houston, but here we've just had, a very rainy, wet season last year.
Right.
Once every 20 years, we get extreme wet weather. Well, now we're going to have El Nino, and we're going to have more wet weather. Our reservoirs are full, but the water rates are not necessarily coming down. So we have plenty of water now, yet the rates aren't coming down. One of the reasons is we've got in Carlsbad a desalination plant where they take ocean water and make drinking water or water for your house, and that requires a lot of electricity.
Okay.
Well, electricity rates are up. So now you're making fresh water with expensive electricity. The rates never come down. It's the same for water. And to his point, why are prices not seasonally adjusted on your utilities or your water bill?
Yeah.
And another big topic is California has done a terrible job of building new reservoirs and new dams to capture. When we do have these seasonal events, we're not capturing enough water. And I would think it's the same in Houston. You get a tremendous amount of rain in Houston. So why is water scarce to begin with? Of course, you've got a lot of people moving in and the city's growing and those dynamics. But yeah, it's fair to say, hey, why are we managing water appropriately? Just as are we managing energy appropriately?
Yeah, great points.
Is that our only question of the day?
No, we didn't. I'm not done yet. We have a boy Ryan Walker tuning in from DC. Says amen to that. Lord says Justin Christmas. That's crazy to think. It's actually a real issue. Sorry about that. Wayne tuning in from Midland. What's going on, Wayne?
Wayne in Midland.
Ryan says elections have consequences. Need to elect more pro-U.S. energy policymakers. And that's kind of summarizes all this.
Let's talk about that for a second. Because elections do have consequences.
Okay.
And what a misconception, I believe, of California in particular, for those outside of California, it's like, oh, you vote for these people, you get
what you deserve.
And okay, fair. But why? We need to be asking the next question. Why is California so dominated by very far left policymakers? And what is driving their proposals, their decision making? And what you will find when you dig exactly
follow the money.
What you will find when you dig into this issue is groups like Center for Biologic Diversity, groups like Earth Justice, groups like Sierra Club. Not only do they donate a tremendous amount of money to campaigns to elect officials that will adopt their extreme environmental proposals, which, by the way, they don't want anything developed. They don't want wind. They don't want solar.
Oh, it's very anti-human progression.
They want us to be camping in tents with no electricity and have no impact on the environment.
And not having kids. Not having kids too. Yeah.
So what elections do have consequences, but what we need is more groups that are raising money, raising awareness for pro-people policies, for pro-energy efficiency, for pro-conservation of resources, for pro-management of our resources, for overhaul of state agencies. If they can't manage our grid infrastructure, our water infrastructure, let's have new people in charge. Let's have I think what I see that typically happens in the election process is, if you're not involved, you have no right to complain. To his point, it's elections have consequences, but that's a call to action for experts in the industry, for those that think, being our friend Nick DeJulius, political quietism he talks about. We cannot be politically quiet during these election seasons and then expect things to change. Yeah. So I just wanted to kind of point that out.
But you're also talking about, we were discussing this yesterday in the car as well, kind of driving around this beautiful area. It's like, you're thinking, all these people that are elected and all that stuff, and the projects that are kind of they're floating. You follow the money,
right?
It's not like these public transportation or these renewable projects make sense. You're connecting two parts of the city where they don't need to be connected with this like monorail. You're connected. It's a grab to get money. It's a grab to get money.
Right.
It's not pro environment. It's not pro. And listen. whether you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, it doesn't matter. If you pull back a little bit and look at this isn't to benefit the people, it's to benefit the
Right.
people that make the decisions.
Right.
And those people are making the cash.
Right. And the landscape politically in California will only change, and historically looking back, only changes in times of crisis. Why did Governor Schwarzenegger get elected? Gray Davis had blackouts. The Enron scandal occurred.
Okay.
And he couldn't keep the lights on, and people
Get pissed.
recalled him, and he was out.
Okay.
And Governor Newsom, to his credit, saw, hey, I better keep Diablo Canyon, our one remaining nuke facility, online,
Right.
because if I have blackouts, I'm not going to be reelected, or I'm going to be recalled again, or I'm not going to win when I run for president. So what will happen is the political landscape the deck will get reshuffled, but it will happen through
A crisis.
crazy high gasoline prices, gasoline shortages, as OPEC just says, hey, we're cutting it back
To the end of the year.
We want $130 oil, baby.
Yeah.
And if you don't have enough, it's easier to ship it over to China. Whatever the dynamic happens, that's what will shift the political landscape out here. It's not going to be a bunch of Californians saying, hey, I want to vote for a Republican. That's just
No,
pie in
yeah.
the sky.
Yeah. Yeah.
So these policies will drive voters, but it's going to take a crisis to make change happen.
Speaking of that, we have John tuning in. John Cassino, what's the answer? How do we inform people before it's too late? How do we stop the nonsense? I see some people speaking about U2, Liberty Energy, Blackmon, Robert Bryce, etc., but it seems to be moving too slow. Meanwhile, Americans are struggling. Well, that kind of ties into your point about Americans are struggling right now. I think people will continue to struggle if, energy isn't taken seriously. If people aren't having realistic energy discussions, understanding why is their electricity bill so high today versus a year ago or 6 months ago, looking at your electricity maps and all that stuff. I think, again, this comes to whether it's sharing content, creating content. You talking about, oh, JP, you should do something for your kids' crew about how much does one drilling rig, how many jobs that supply. That shouldn't be on me. Yeah. I mean, that should be someone out there like waking up like, oh, I wonder how much this, and just create your own content, share that, have discussions with people about energy, about the energy realities. And this isn't just, sharing this podcast. No, this is being in line at the grocery store and, you hear someone behind you talk about X, Y, Z, just kind of introducing yourself and talking to them and engaging with policymakers, engaging with your local elections and I mean, it's funny, my whole life I've been, very kind of away. I don't want to be political. I stay away from that stuff. But at the same time, I'm kind of drawn. I keep on getting drawn to these discussions because they are so impactful towards everyone out there, to these families out there.
Absolutely.
So I think ways, obviously I think we need to get creative. I think we need to start engaging more in, local elections, local policies, staying on top of this stuff more and just having these discussions where you don't get in these camp mindsets of like, oh, you want more wind turbines, you're an idiot.
Right.
No.
Right.
We want all energy, but let's talk about it realistically, pragmatically.
And I think people need to understand those are great questions, but people need to understand the environmental movement didn't just happen the past 5 years. They started as grassroots efforts 30, 40 years ago. And the industry, we all know this, the traditional oil and gas industry did not. For the past 30, 40 years, it's been, how do we make money? Which is
it's a business.
That's business.
Yeah.
They see it as a business. And now you see broad recognition, broad acceptance. Hey, we better get on board with what's happening with the environmental movement. So I think we wrestle with this at Californians for Energy and Science. We just started, but I say all the time, this is 30, 40 years. We have to do this.
You're planting a forest.
Yes. And you have to go. You cannot, the names he mentioned, I would venture to say a majority of their followers are in the industry.
Yeah.
And so the biggest thing that we need to do in the industry is go into universities that we perceive as our opposition. And that's why I'm so excited to have a board member like Joseph Silvey, a student at UC Berkeley, who's engaged me to speak on campus a number of times. And I'll be speaking now at a business school, Haas Business School,
That's
guest
awesome.
lecture.
Yeah.
And what really struck me when I spoke at the Biofuels Technology Club there last spring was multiple students came up to me, and when you present them with these articles and you help them connect the dots, they say, you know what? I did not think highly of oil and gas in California before I came to this 30-minute talk. And now I'm, it's not like they're singing the praises,
No.
but they appreciate understanding the nuances. And I think that's what we need to do as the industry is go to high schools, get involved. If you have a elementary school student, a high school student, college student, get involved. Ask the professors. If you know something about the industry and you can teach a 1-hour course, go do it. Go do it, because tweeting, we all tweet, we all LinkedIn. It's just going to ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, you post something, it's just exactly, it's going to yourself. I mean, I was actually having a conversation with someone in Colorado. I'm going to do a post about this, but like Big Brothers Big Sisters, it's a charity that helps all this stuff. Historically, we've been huge, big supporters of it.
Right.
And she reached out. She goes, "It's interesting. There's zero oil and gas companies in the Denver Big Brothers Big Sisters raise and all that stuff."
Right.
And to me, it's like, that's a great opportunity to get
Right.
involved. We need to be in, we don't need to be supporting like the big like oil and gas meets. Yeah, obviously that's very important to do. However, we need to be supporting stuff that's not in our normal realm, not in our normal scope. Get out there. That way we're kind of shaking hands. Hey, who are you with? Amazon. Hey, who are you with?
Right.
That way you're kind of meeting like, oh my God, big oil isn't really big oil, and they're just kind of like us. They're just, they're people too. So
Right.
I think it's one of those things like getting involved and kind of maybe supporting things that are kind of outside the echo chamber. And I've been a huge proponent on doing that.
Yeah. Any more? That was a good couple, 3-4 questions. I like that.
Great questions. All right. So we have Omar saying, Rashid, you guys are on target. How do we convince a larger population? We're working on that. Need Trump back. Okay. All right. We got that. We'll be in Houston next week. Let me know. I'm going to be in and out of Houston real quick. I'd love to tag up if you are. Shoot me a DM. And then Jordan, pro energy policies are not the solution. Take Texas as a prime example. We have a massive issue with water and electricity in Texas. Yeah, Greg Abbott, who is pro energy, keeps begging more and more companies to come to our state. It's like moving people into a house before the sheetrock has even gone up and then realize you don't have the funds to finish the build.
I like that. I think that's a great statement.
The real issue.
You do have populists moving to Texas, and you've got to build it out. You've got to be there for the people, and you got to plan for it.
The real issue is that there are more unelected individuals steering the ship in this country. There is no quick fix. There isn't a quick fix. I mean, we didn't get here. We didn't get to this crunch overnight. You're right.
No.
And that's the thing. Like, I have that book, Energy for Everyone, the children's book. And there's other children's books out there too that kind of dive into energy. And they're actually just great discussions for the whole family. So there's ways to John goes, we're people too, huh? It's true. We are people too with families, and we're kind of cool. So, yeah, so I think it's one of those things. It is getting conversations, whether it's at your local grocery store, whether it's going to school, reading books to kids, whether it's calling, just getting engaged in Californians for Energy and Science, even if you're not in California. It's having more pro energy discussions. You talk about Liberty Energy. I don't take the stance of pro oil or anti renewables. It's pro human life, pro human flourishing, and I think that is the exact tone. That's the exact theme that people should be having when discussing energy.
Absolutely.
Pro human life and pro saving money, where it's like you have disposable income, you're not paying out the ass for your electricity bill.
Let's have the conversation with the environmental activists and walk them through. Hey,
yeah,
it's better here than elsewhere.
Yeah,
and if they're just no energy is the best energy,
then that's move down the road. Yeah, you're not going to convince everyone. You're not trying to convince. You're trying to educate.
Right. You're
trying to educate. So I want to thank everyone out there for tuning into Energy Facts Chats this morning. We're going to be live tomorrow. It might be a different time.
Is it? You sleeping in tomorrow?
No, we're not sleeping. I thought we talked about maybe checking out the energy infrastructure at the San Diego Zoo tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
But look, here's the deal. We will be going. Checking out the energy infrastructure, making sure that that's okay. But we don't know. But here's the deal. We are going to be going live tomorrow. It might be a little bit earlier. It might be a little bit later, but it doesn't matter. You can find this and all the other Energy Facts Chats on our YouTube channel and all that stuff. But again, check out Californians for Energy and Science, what they're doing. They're trying to promote the energy realities and the environmental impacts realities of domestic energy production. So check them out. Give them a lot of love, give them a lot of support. And thank you for everyone tuning in. Obviously, there's a lot out there to take. There's a lot to tackle. However, I think, starting your mornings off here and just getting out there positive and just kind of pro-human, pro-energy, pro-environmental is the way to go. So again, thank y'all for tuning in. We appreciate you. Y'all have a great day. And
See you tomorrow, right?
see you manana. We gotta do this for the
you
couch.
gotta
Oh
do
wait,
that,
we gotta do
yeah.
the send off. Then I gotta end it.
And then don't come back.
I
Right?
can't
Just
come back.
once you're
Can't
gone,
come
you're
back.
gone.
Once we're gone, we're gone. Thank y'all. Y'all be good.